So, welcome everybody. We are back finally after a long, what seems like years. It's been months at least. Those old movie guys. I am Will, and I'm here with my partner, Andre Gower. Andre, how are you, sir?
Doing good, doing good. Glad to be out and about.
It has been a while, and in the past couple shows we have talked about such classes as Stand by Me, Red Dawn, and today this was actually an Andre pick from the last time we had talked, and he's got a special reason behind it. The movie is called Towering Inferno, and it was such a great movie. But the reason I think he picked it mainly, he's a little partial to one of the co-stars in the movie, and I do believe he knows this person very well. Andre, who was in this movie that you would know? Starring
Well, there,
alongside Steve McQueen and Paul fucking Newman, for Christ's sakes.
yeah, and don't forget the Fred Astaire and Richard
Yes,
Richard Wagner
and
and
OJ Simpson.
Robert Wagner and William
OJ.
Holden and Faye Dunaway
Yeah.
and Jennifer Jones,
OJ Simpson.
OJ Simpson,
Yeah.
um, a young Dabney Coleman has a
Yes.
scene in it. Also, Mike Lookinland from the Brady
Yes, from the
Bunch.
Brady Bunch. Yes.
And then Susan Blakely, who was a huge soap star for many years. But then also rounding out that giant cast, which wasn't everybody, by the way, but
No, no, by far no.
the little girl in that movie, Angela Albright, is actually
Yes.
my sister.
Yes.
So my sister Carlina was in the Towering Inferno.
Yes, and she did very well. They had to make her do a little double duty there. In a couple scenes, she was moving some chairs. She was sign language and stuff. Did she actually have to learn sign language? I didn't catch her hands, but she.
I think that's funny. I think they did have someone kind of do some sort, but then I used to make fun of her that she's not doing anything. But that yeah, maybe I'll ask her later today.
Yeah, there you go. I was always
I'm like,
curious.
hey, by the way, that got asked if you. I told you weren't really signing.
uh, so, like you just said, Fred Astaire was in this movie. Faye Dunaway, Steve McQueen, all these legends were in this movie, and well, you would know for it. How did your sister like? Did she just audition and then did they just call her right away, or like did she have to like go through many calls for it, or what was going on with that?
Yeah, I think it was just that was very early in her existence, but
Right,
also in her career.
right,
The yeah, I think they had just they being my parents and my sister. I was just born. We had just they had been down in LA for a year or so, and I think it was just an audition process like anything
right.
else, and got cast in this role, and then she was on that set for weeks and weeks. So
I,
it's I mean, that was a giant production, and at the time, if anybody knows the movie or is interested, like you can go and search, kind of like these archival YouTube videos and
mhm.
making of and BTS type things of how they build scale models. I mean, everything was practical. There was no digital effects in
Yeah,
the
that
scene.
that's
So
what blew me
even
away too.
even all the fire in the water is all real.
Yeah, I mean, oh god, and there's even some scenes like one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, like is when hold on, I wrote it down here because I wanted to make sure that I like got some points here from what watching this. I was like, oh, I remember it now, and then where was it? Oh yeah, okay. This I can't remember the guy's character, but he was in the building, of course, with his I think it's his wife maybe or not. His, no, it was like she was like maybe his mistress or something. And
Yes, yeah. Robert Wagner and
yeah,
Susan
yeah, Robert
Blakely.
Wagner. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's who it was.
his secretary. Yeah.
Yes, his secretary. And the thing is, my favorite line is he covers himself with a wet towel right before he goes out the door, and he goes, oh, was it verbatim? Yeah, yeah. Okay. He goes, I used to run the 110 flat, and then just
That's right.
proceeds to run out, and then immediately engulfed in flames. Just
Yeah,
just done. She's
just
just
not good. Just
staring
not
at him
good.
like ah. I'm like, oh god, that was horrible. But it was such a like I was like, oh my god, he did not just like he bragged all about it and then just ran out. Boom, real quick. Just,
Right.
Come on. I'm like,
Yeah, I
I
was
know it's not supposed to be a comedy, but I laughed my ass off. I was like,
yeah, that was actually it's kind of comical.
right.
But you know that whole thing there's uh a lot. I mean, it's obvious, but some people miss it. Like earlier, apparently he has like an apartment adjacent to his office on the
Right.
89th floor or whatever it is, and they shut off the phones to the office so they can't call for help and no one knows where they are. And and then he even like tries to find and he like pretends that they're on the other line. So he's just BSing his whole way out of their demise,
Oh yeah.
or into their
Into
demise.
the
And
device.
yeah, that was always a that's a great stunt because when and I don't recall who the actual stunt man is that when he walks out and goes on fire to walk into that giant thing and you know there's it's kind of uh, a very complex stunt because he runs out and then like something kind of
Yeah, yeah.
flashes at him and he runs the other way and he's crashing through furniture and if you ever watch or if you know anything about stunts and especially firework, they're usually in these giant suits and their faces are covered so you can't see anything and you're covered in this gel and these big heavy materials and he's trying to run around and it's a cinematically it's a great shot because it's kind of in slow-mo but not really and
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
just kind of running around and he's literal toast.
Yeah, and then he just stops and then he falls over
Yeah.
the side
Then
of
he
the
yeah, and he
just
just crashes through the plate glass
yeah.
kind of balcony there and is well done. And then Susan Blakely has to sit and watch that and
Yeah, like she echoed though.
yeah.
She was very. I believed her. I would.
Yeah, that was
I
and
wonder if
then
they.
she goes and she gets punted out the window and
Yeah, yeah. I remember. Sorry.
now and I think in that. No, it's not the only person that technically falls out of the tower, but she gets kind of blown out and it's kind of on fire. And
Mm-hmm.
that stunt looks a little bit, I mean, that's crazy. That's all practical. That's somebody jumping out of
Right.
an elevated something on fire and into an airbag. But um, and then some people kind of fall out of the very very tight in the penthouse in the
Mm-hmm.
promenade like that, the party room. But yeah, there's a lot of stunts. There's just the fire and the water is all real.
Yeah.
And even firefighters and everything, that they had real firefighters on set, obviously, and even some of the actors. And um, even though it was all there's some shots with fire that are really, really cool. And then others you can kind of tell it's kind of movie fire, even though it's
Right.
not fake, but it's propane based and shot out at you. But hey man, that'll get you too. But
Yeah.
when the fire's creeping on the ceilings and like coming up door jams and stuff, you're like, yeah, that's not. This is just a literal nightmare.
Yeah, dude.
And
Oh, that's crazy. Like that. I don't understand how they could. Like they made it look uncontrolled, but you know what I mean. But it was controlled at the same time. Like I don't understand like movie magic really. I don't understand like how they can do that in a controlled environment, but make it look like it's legit out of control. Like like
well, that's what model work. And I think they built two or three different scale models of the tower for the
mm,
exteriors. And then this is all how movies used to be made.
right,
And
right,
and this is probably in the peak of the ability, along with model work and camera work and matte painting
mm,
work, which used to be a skill.
right.
Now it doesn't exist. Matte painting died at the end of the 80s.
I
But matte
agree.
painting, people a lot don't know there's actually artists that like hand paint these amazing landscapes or cityscapes on these giant canvases that are like the size of building sides, the sides of building, and it's actually in camera and they shoot that plate. But yeah, I mean, in Towering Inferno, there was two or three scale models of the building, and then all these sets on different lots. And because it's the first one of the first movies, if not the first movie, that two major studios ever teamed up to share budget
Right.
and actually make.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it was Fox and 20th Century Fox and Warner Brothers, if I'm not
Correct. Yep.
mistaken.
No, you're correct.
But
Yep.
yeah, the only unfortunate thing now is that it's technically a Fox title, which is now owned by Disney.
Right. How does that
And
work though? Like honestly, if it was a joint. ish, project.
Well, I think they worked all that at the beginning. Who
Oh, okay,
actually has
gotcha,
the
gotcha,
actual
gotcha.
distribution rights or
Lost
title
stuff.
rights? And yeah, yeah, look, yeah,
Yeah,
stuff I didn't go to school for, but
right,
I
right,
learned it anyway. Um, yeah, but and the interesting now that we've encountered over the last couple of years is this is the 50th anniversary of Towering Inferno,
oh shit, I didn't even think about that.
and
Yeah,
yeah, and you would what's crazy is you would think this is a great opportunity for people to kind of do like a retro screening and maybe invite some of the cast that's still around
right,
and do something and most of the cast is gone. And some are still kicking.
right, right.
They are I don't think they're kicking hard, but they're still kicking.
they're
And
they're kicking, they're moving.
but I was me being someone that always does events and appearances all over, and I know some great venues and places, like the Alamo Draft House and things like that. Um, there's I I'm sure there's some reason that they do it, but I've tried for over like this last year to put together kind of like a reunion screening and have like Mike and my sister show up as the guests
Right,
and just sell tickets and sign some stuff and it's very if you're a theater that Disney has a rule, and now this is a Disney title. If you're a theater that shows first run Disney movies, you
right.
cannot show old titles ever.
Really?
So if you're like a multiplex or a two screener or even a one screener that
Right.
shows first run,
Yeah, yeah.
Disney movies,
You can't show
you can't show Towering Inferno even as like a kind of retro cool screening at midnight on a Friday or something. You just can't do it.
that.
They won't allow it.
That is bogus. To quote Bill and Ted, that is
Yeah.
completely bogus. You should be able to play
So it's
that
hard. Yeah,
wherever.
plus it's hard. It's a long movie too. So when
For
you do
almost
do it,
three
but
hours. You got
yeah,
it's
I mean, my sister just went up to, ironically, to San Francisco because someone did do a screening of it and
okay.
invited like the local firehouse, and because that's where the movie takes place is in
Right.
San Francisco, and it was interesting, and packed house, and a lot of people come because people know and love this movie, and I've been trying to get Carlina and Mike, in a venue or theater somewhere to, all this summer and everything. It's like people they can't show it. It's tough.
Man,
It's tough
that's
to make
hard.
those work.
They can't even. All right. Like, what if you booked out a park? Like a public park,
Oh, you can do that.
and then do
Yeah.
it and have a whole thing like that. Like, I mean, it's a way
Yeah, well,
around it, I
technically,
guess.
yeah, technically, yeah, it's your park because you're not a venue. But then you've still got to, if you're going the legit way, you've got to call the office that
Right,
handles
right,
that and license, and pay the license fee to show it.
right, right.
And then most studios, like I don't even Sony's the worst or the best, but they charge a fee plus they want like half of your gate.
Oh, shh, they're extorting you.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's no way around
it's one
that
of those
one.
like, yeah, sometimes it ends up not being worth the squeeze.
Wow, Jesus. So on there's a lot of negatives, I guess. Then to trying to put on a positive, that's kind of weird. You'd figure they'd want their product to be more publicized if
You
they
would
own
think,
it. You know
and
what I mean? Like,
I think the weird behind the curtain, behind the door to Cinderella's castle, since it's Disney, it's something to do with like, well, they keep all of their titles, vaulted, and if they ever wanted to put out a product, then it would be fresh and theirs solely, and nothing would be like nothing would dilute it. And I was
right?
like, so a screening in Omaha is going to dilute your, making a Blu-ray of Towering
Yeah.
Inferno. So it's not going to happen. So,
No.
but I don't know. They have their business practices, and
Bad ones.
they obviously know more than I do because they have a lot more money than I do.
Yeah, you know what? They do know how to pinch a penny. I'll give them that.
No.
They make millions out of,
Yeah, and
yeah.
and say what you want about Disney. That I think now it's really interesting because of the Star Wars, world. Is you either have and it's almost a mirror of our current political world. Is you were either on one side of the
Or the
extreme or
other.
the other side of the extreme, and you're either one side or the other, and you're in the extremes.
Right.
And it's you're which are, extremes of anything are never good. They're the ones that need to disappear. But
Exactly.
they it's funny because people are like, I'm at Disney, and they go like 3 times a month to Disneyland or
Right.
something, or once a week, and
Jeez.
they was like, well, I'm just going back to see the Millennium Falcon. I'm like, didn't you do that last year? And they go, I
Right.
did that last month. I'm like, I gotta go. I'm like, I don't
That's
know.
that's a lot.
And then
Like,
when it's $100 for a churro at Disneyland, to
Jesus,
have a snack, and I just I understand things cost more, but
bro.
it really ain't. I don't know,
All right.
but people get it, and I know people that live in Florida. They're like that. I know people that live in
Dude,
California.
I lived in Florida
Um,
for a whole year, right? Just 1 year. That's all I could take. But I was down in Florida for a year, and I managed to only go to Disney Walk. Like right before you get into Disney,
right?
and it cost me a freaking fortune
Yeah,
just to go there. Like, I'm lucky my kids were like not having it, so we're like, all right, Disney Walk's cool. We'll go. We lived here for a year. I see the fireworks from my house every night. We're good.
yeah, and that's really all you need is because it's a good fireworks show. But
That was it.
we used to go in high school. Growing up back in LA, you'd go. I don't know, you'd go to Disneyland maybe like once a year or once every 2 years, and that was plenty because there
Right.
was nothing new. Like nothing ever really changed when I was a kid at Disney.
Yeah.
And the only thing new that ever went to Disneyland that changed from when I was a little kid to like probably through high school. And don't come at me, Disney, you know, fan, like the super
Yeah.
Disneys. Because
Got
I
a
have
few of them
I
on
have
here.
like 50 friends that are just fanatic, and I'm like, I get it. Go have fun. Like
Right.
I no, I don't want to go to Disneyland again this weekend.
Yeah,
I'm tired. Like I'm an old man.
yeah,
Like I'm
yeah.
tired. But I think the only thing that changed in like I would maybe the 15 years that I ever went span was they added the Captain EO,
The
the
Michael
Michael
Jackson thing.
Jackson.
Yep.
And we went, oh, we got to go see that. Then we saw it and was like,
Yeah,
it was neat. It was
that's
sweet.
what I said too.
Yeah. But no, my yeah, it was people they have it right. I mean, they have it really all Disney is when you look at it, it's just a licensing machine. They just want
That's
to
true.
sell stuff that has their logos on it, and they
That's
do. And that's
true.
what happened when Star Wars was, sort of this niche kind of cool world. And then Disney got it, and now like you used to not see Star Wars like licensing for
Right,
anything.
right. Yeah,
It was
George Lucas was
it was
very
very, very
tight-fisted
tight.
on a lot of it.
Even though they sold a lot of those,
Right.
but then like all of a sudden Disney gets it, and I'm buying like a Wookiee towel and a droid bath mat and
Yeah.
a soap dispenser of BB-8, and you're just like, you know you're
Grogu everything.
it's not the,
Yeah.
oh, that guy, whoa,
Yeah.
how cute is he?
Right? My wife's
There,
obsessed. I got
and I mean, I get it, but that it's always the little cute thing, and then but that's what we have to really understand. Look, I'm an original huge Star Wars
same.
nerd fan, and I enjoy some of the new stuff, but you also have to realize that all these, like I said, the other extreme of the Disney World is like people that hate on it, and like it's not made for you. Relax.
Right, right,
That's
right.
it.
Exactly. It's a whole
Either
different.
go see it, you paid your money, or you streamed it and you didn't like it.
Right.
I don't need to know on Instagram, because really, when it comes down to it, like it's okay. Like
Yeah. And Disney don't care.
you've
They're gonna
seen
keep making it no matter what.
Disney doesn't care because your one negative voice to I didn't like this episode of The Mandalorian,
And
and because they didn't do what I wanted to do. It's a whole
that's
other
ex-
thing where some people are just dinguses, but other people really, we've seen some fandom change where fandom equates ownership, and like that ain't true.
no, no, not at all.
Yeah, fandom doesn't equate ownership, but Star Wars fans really held it. And but I do have the cute merch thing, genius. I love it. But I hate the Ewoks.
I was about to say, what's your opinion on the Ewoks and
Oh
Jar
no.
Jar Binks?
Jar Jar Binks only exists because of the Ewoks.
Very true. Got me there.
And so does Grogu
Got
and
me there.
BB-8 to some extent, but because of R2. But obviously, BB-8's great. I actually like that. That's a great
True. Yeah,
character.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I love something like R2, that you can understand it without speaking the language. And I think there's some great, stuff. And I love It's like BB-8's a great character. Ewoks, no,
No.
kind
is
of ruined.
is it just the
Uh,
fact that they're just small Wookiees? Is that just they needed to go the other extreme, like we were talking about, the one extreme to the other? Very tall, hairy guy, very small,
yeah, well,
hairy
they were
guy.
supposed to be. I mean, I thought that was supposed to be the epic battle, if I remember it right. And like the third installment was supposed to be that was the enslaved Wookiee planet,
Right, right.
and they were building the new Death Star, and then they had the Wookiee revolt, and that would have been an epic battle.
That would have been
Instead,
awesome.
we have like these stuffed animals
But they are cannibals.
going up against, stormtroopers that literally burned Luke Skywalker's
True.
aunt and uncle in the desert,
That's very true.
and they can't kill a Muppet.
I mean, to be fair, they couldn't hit a target with a fucking laser gun either.
Yeah,
But
and which totally counteracts, these blast points are far too accurate
right,
for
right,
such.
right.
Only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise. You're like, oh, and then now you get taken down by a slingshot by Fozzie the bear, and I don't know. I'm not going to hate on that. It's fine. It's
No, no,
fine.
no, it's fine.
It's Return of the Jedi. But yeah, we're like again. I'm doing this. I'm doing what I was complaining about. I'm
Right.
hating on something,
Hey,
but I was a kid at the time. I was a kid at
exactly.
the time, and I thought it was. I was
It
like, no,
was
where's this great thing? Anyway,
anyway.
we were talking about Towering Inferno, I
We
think.
were, yeah. So it seems it happens quite a bit. It's okay.
Oh, but I meant all these movies were made the same. Model
Yes.
makers and everything. These are all kind of, especially in the movie industry. That's how movies were made, and the Death Star was a model. All the ships were a model. The bases and stuff on sets and all miniaturized, and the trench that they shoot down. It's all the same thing of building these buildings for like Towering Inferno and all these scale things where you're actually putting fire and putting cameras in small windows. It's fascinating,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's how movies used to be made.
And and
And
and to be
it
fair,
was
the Inferno
wondrous.
the Inferno set, you would not be able to tell from scene to scene what was a model and what was, like real,
Yeah, and most of the model work, I believe, was all the exteriors
yeah,
and things like that. And they used different buildings for big interiors and some exteriors. And like if you've ever been to San Francisco and like I think it's the uh, um, is it a Westin? I think it's the Westin Bonaventure. Or it used to be a Westin down like on the wharf, like the interior, exposed elevators and
oh yeah,
things
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
And that was all that. And yeah, that's all really cool how you piecing things together to make it look like one location. And but that was just a massive, massive movie to make at the time. And everybody's like, oh, it's so intense. And you watch it now, you can kind of see some cheese
right, a little
because
bit,
it's a
but
70s disaster movie. But I grew up being like, oh my God, this is like blowing my
well, I
mind.
mean,
And
to be honest,
but then
it's
you look at it now, you're like, oh, that's a little cheesy.
a little bit, but
But
it set the precedent for
maybe it's just because it's dated a little bit. It's
maybe,
fine.
but it set the precedent though for these types of movies, like these big budget, like disaster movies, I guess you call them, really.
Yeah, well, Irwin Allen was sort of the godfather of disaster movies, and
Right.
made like Poseidon Adventure, which a lot of people love Poseidon Adventure, more than Towering Inferno. It's on a shit. That was cool because they built a set upside down.
Yeah.
But again, that's just cool movie making. And
it's
actors have to crawl around like opposite. It's great, like being
yeah.
trapped on a ship. And what disaster movies did is it kind of I think disaster movies, uh, except for like Airport 77 or whatever, and movies with disasters like airplanes, no one really likes because we fly all the time,
Right.
right? You're like, "Ugh." But it's also sort of a little cathartic release that like sort of what sort of like the horror genre does for a lot of people is it's sort of that these are our biggest fears, but we get to enjoy them.
Right.
We want to experience them, but enjoy them. We don't want to actually experience them.
Yeah, yeah. You want to get that
And
shake, but you don't want to. Yeah.
right, and so it's a tough thing, but then you can totally understand why people that have actually had traumas or bad experiences, um, be it in a disaster like a flood
Right.
or combat or anything like that. I don't. That's why I grew up loving war movies and combat movies, World War II movies especially, and then Vietnam was very very fresh. It was, you know technically still happening when I was technically born, but grew up with my dad, and you watch all these famous World War II and Korean War movies and Cold War movies, and it's fascinating, like, ooh, rah rah, and then you meet people that have been there, like, yeah, it's not really cool. It's like
Yeah,
it's
yeah, we
not
didn't have that good of a
not
time.
cool at all. But I think that's what and I think people live vicariously through war movies. They think that they like, I would have done the same thing. I would have charged that machine gun nest. I was like, no, you wouldn't have.
No, no, you'd have been in the hole
No,
crying
no,
like a little
no,
girl.
no, yeah, no, you wouldn't have. And and disaster movies, I think, kind of hold sort of that same thing of where people were absolutely terrified of experiencing something like that, but we're absolutely enthralled and attracted to it
Right.
weirdly. And but I think it's just a basic human psychology, and we do that in everyday life, like, or in our
Yeah.
relationships. Like we're deathly afraid of certain types of people, yet we're just like really attracted to them or something.
That's very
Yeah, but
true,
I think
actually.
disaster movies kind of fit that bill a little bit. And then ironically, it was sort of like a little peak thing, but we still make them.
Yeah, that's very true.
We still make them. Um, when you look at it, like most of the Marvel movies are disaster movies. Like most of the Avengers movies, they're all disaster movies.
They
Everything
are.
gets destroyed.
They are when the
Everything
Avengers
gets
are done. Yes, that's very
absolutely
true.
gets destroyed. And then of course, Thanos kills half of everything. It's like, wait,
It's
um,
definitely a disaster movie now that I think about it. Yeah.
yeah, it's an absolute disaster movie. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, the Avengers saved you. Like, did they?
Did they really? Like that's why I
Fifty
kind of
percent of everybody's gone.
like what was that one show that they made too, where the people cleaned up after the fucking all these things, like after the Avengers and stuff. They made a TV show, Marvel. It wasn't Agents of Shield. There was another one, Disaster or something like that. I don't know, whatever it was. They showed what happened after all this shit happened,
I
and the
don't have Disney
cleanup
Plus,
crew.
so I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, no, I it was.
I had Disney Plus for a little bit, but now I don't. That's it. Um, I think I got Disney Plus just to watch The Mandalorian season one, and I was like,
I think that's when we got it and we decided to keep it. I guess I
yeah, I
don't
was like,
know.
yeah, all right. And I'm trying to get rid of all. I think I have one, and I think I'm getting rid of it. I don't watch enough stuff.
Dude, you know what? I kind of just watch my wrestling and stuff lately these
You
days,
watch your
and
wrestling, yeah.
that's
And I think that happens because we kind of modulate through our years, but I always go back. People are like, have you seen this? I'm like, no. I'm like, did you see something? Like, no, not yet. It's on my list, kind of.
kind of
And
sort of.
I'll never watch it.
No,
Whatever it is. And
yeah,
I know people that consume a massive amount of content,
yeah, yeah.
and it's all new. And then I realized, like, I tried to be cool and be different and be like, I really don't watch that much stuff. And I realized, like, actually, I probably consume more content than you, but it's all reruns of TV shows.
Right.
And because I realize I'm a TV, maybe a TV junkie.
I used to
I
be.
may have a problem. I may have it. I may should be in a group. Um,
Right.
but I do. I think I've always liked I love movies. Movies are great.
Oh yeah.
But like TV, I've just always really liked TV.
Well, I mean,
And
I was a latchkey kid, so TV was my babysitter. You know what I mean? So
and I think that's probably what it is. It may be a Gen X thing. Sorry, millennials and
yeah.
Zers and
Sorry, guys.
but it's we had a small outlet
Right.
in our living rooms, and that's what we watched. And Saturday mornings,
Oh God, yeah.
but then you also had a diversity of content, like especially on a Saturday.
Yeah.
You woke up, you had some cartoon, maybe a cartoon, and then you had kung fu theater, and then you had
Yes.
old black and white movies, and
Yep.
then you had sports,
Yep. Yep.
and then you had like Saturday night the movies on ABC, and you could watch some movie that came out the year before,
Exactly.
and edited and smushed and
Of
dubbed,
course.
and uh, but you didn't go to the theater to see that. But I also went to the movie theater a lot as a kid, a lot,
Yeah. I went a lot too. I can't say I
and
didn't.
because that was. But here, I think everybody's talking about the death of the movie theater because of streaming, and I was like, I don't think it's because of streaming. What
No.
it is because people don't leave your fucking house,
That too. It's that,
and
and the fact that if you want to go out and have a full night, say you got a family of four, it's going to cost you
well,
a
yeah,
hundred
it's way too
bucks.
expensive.
It's going to cost you
Absolutely,
$100 to go to movies. That's with the
yeah.
popcorn and whatever. Because You can't
And
get the small popcorns anymore, and the small popcorns are like 10, $15.
yeah, I mean, I hardly ever. I mean, it got to a point where I was like, I'm not buying anything in a movie
Right,
anyway.
right, right.
But I had red vines and sodas as a kid, which I probably took 10 years off my life at the end. But
At least. Same
um,
here.
I mean, I haven't drank soda in 15 years or something. It's great. But I mean, we used to go to the movie. We'd be in sixth grade and get dropped off at the movie theater.
It's very true. In the mall, just go ahead. You're there.
Yeah, or ride your bike to the mall, or
Yep.
ride your bike to the theater and lock it up out front
Quite
in the bike
frankly,
rack,
I don't
because there'd
remember
be a bike
ever.
rack or a tree.
Yeah, I don't remember ever my
And
parents being around for most of my early childhood.
no, no. And I mean, mine was a little different, but I had sort of a normal childhood also, which I uh, was on purpose and I appreciated. But yeah, I remember it used to be every Friday.
Yep.
I was in sixth grade. I'd go to the movies with Butch Clark and Jason Lavett, and they were, friends of mine. And we just someone would be at one of their houses, and then whoever we were at, their parents would drop us off at either the Northridge Cineplex, which I think had four screens, and or the Parthenia Theater, which had four screens. And there's just little old regular, built in the 70s, peaked in the 80s
Yeah.
movie theaters, and we would go and pick what we're seeing because you had to look in the newspaper,
Yep.
or and it was $5. It
Yeah.
was it was $5, and we'd go eat before like this deli next door or something, and it was bonkers. But
Yep.
now, like you said, you can't even go like. But what sixth grader or seventh graders getting dropped off anymore by their parents?
That's very true.
They,
Not
they don't even
many.
let them go in the backyard without standing over them and watching them. And
Cell phone with the camera on them most of the whole time.
right, I
FaceTime,
mean, it's like
literally.
it's like, all right, Jimmy, make sure you put your floaties on. It was like, Mom, I'm not in the pool. I'm shooting hoops in the front yard. Let's put your floaties on
Right
anyway.
about.
Do you have your helmet and your gloves?
Helmet. What's that? We
It's like,
didn't
look,
have a
now,
helmet.
now look, helmets are a good idea.
They
They
are.
really
No, no,
are.
no.
When you when
One
you
hundred
when you come
percent.
down to it,
We were doing
100%
jumps and
helmets
yeah,
are
yeah.
smart. But we first of all, we didn't have helmets, and second of
No,
all, we wouldn't have worn them if we had them.
that's very true. Public service
But yeah,
announcement.
I mean, yeah, God, I mean, it's like back in the day, like you were a dirt bike manufacturer. That was the Tesla of the day.
Oh
So,
yeah, one hundred
but
percent.
but I just, people just don't go outside. Kids don't go outside. Adults don't go outside.
Nope.
And I think that's more the people don't want to leave their house, and that's been that way for 10 years or
Yeah.
more. And pandemic just solidified that,
Yeah, 100%.
and made even more of those people. And that's unfortunate. And that's where we have the effect of, seeing a movie at home is now is it's different. It's the same content, but it's a different
It
experience.
is. It's not the same sitting home on the couch as it is sitting in the theater.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah. Right. And but I think sitting at home, like, that's interesting. The movies at home were a new thing. Technically started in the 70s, but not just Sunday night ABC movie of the week, but yeah, I mean they used to make movies just for TV.
Right, right,
Um,
right.
the Now our television shows are cinematic, which is great. I still like television.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the but that's what HBO started off to be, and the history of HBO, and the business model of what they did is fascinating. If you get into that and read, it's genius. And then it made this impact. But what they thought they were going to do, like their main goal, starting in the early, came out in the 70s, really. But then I think it was something in the early 80s, they're like, we are actually going to change this dynamic of like the disparate family. Like the families are going to come back in the living room and watch movies together, and we're going to do that. It's going to be HBO that saves the American family.
Right.
And what they realized, it's like once you got if you were a house in a town that had HBO, um, once you could watch it on different screens. Like
Right.
the kids went and watched something, the mom went and watched something, the
That's
dad went
right.
and watched something. They were all in separate rooms. And then, like you said, with latchkey kids, they realized they had this phenomenon that certain titles were being watched at like 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, who's watching these movies at 3 p.m.? Like, oh my God, it's all these kids that are at
Kids
home
from
by themselves.
Yo.
And it became this giant thing, and they were like, "Oh, now we got to flip our, but yeah, now we're going to put this programming in the middle of the day." And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was really interesting to how you track that.
Well, I mean,
But that
definitely.
was no story. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
but and then to kind of circle around because we have a theme of Towering Inferno.
We do.
I never saw that movie. I never saw that movie in the theater.
No, I didn't. I
I've
was too
still
young.
never seen that movie in the theater. I've seen it
No.
100 times.
Yeah, I've
Um,
watched it with my dad many a time actually. So
yeah, I mean, back in the day, obviously, we're and trust us, we're not just waxing nostalgic on
no.
on 70s and 80s, but there was a time you used to go to the video store and not only rent the videos, but you used to be able to rent the VCR.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
then hook it up to your TV, and it was like this marvel of electric engineering. And I was like,
Oh,
it was three plugs. That's all it
dude,
was.
you remember when the
And
Betamax was supposed to be the big thing?
well, beta was better.
I
Beta had
thought it
better
was.
quality.
I thought it
Well, it was
was.
technically it was. The
Yeah.
problem with Betamax, as all mass-produced consumer products, Beta was better but more expensive,
Yes, that's
and
it.
that's why Beta died and VHS took over. Um, and then because it was almost like disposable,
Right.
and it was super cheap.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched Towering Inferno. We actually used to rent the movie along with a VCR player, and we watched it on beta once or twice,
Nice.
and we'd watch it like once a year, and then it finally came out like on VHS, and
Right.
you could own your own copy. But that was expensive back in the day because you couldn't buy
No,
tapes.
no. I remember watching
And
it on video disc. If you remember what those were.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
People.
that was another technology that was much better,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah,
very
yeah.
expensive,
But
and people
very
didn't like
expensive.
it because they were already addicted to VHS.
Yep, that's it. And it was. Everybody had the collections and everything in the VHS. So like, I don't know if I want the same movies. Keep upgrading. Blah blah blah. It was
Yeah.
great.
Now you can get more video discs on a shelf because they're thinner.
It's true. Yeah, it's like stacking
VHS
records at that point.
VHS boxes take up a lot of room.
Yeah, they
Take
do.
up a lot
Yeah,
of
they
room.
do.
But that was an interesting time. But of the movie experience, like I think I would have, because I don't think I went to the premiere. The premiere I think was at might have been the Cinerama Dome. I could be wrong. I can ask my sister. But I didn't see Towering Inferno in the movie theater, which would have been fantastic.
Right.
With the sound and the music and the
Oh.
the you know the audio mix of the explosions and the fire and the water and the dialogue, things like that.
Right.
That would have
Right.
been pretty. That would have been pretty rad.
Yeah, we need to get that in the theater. We got to get that in there.
Well, it's got to
Nice.
be a
It's got to
non
be a
a
non
non
thing.
first run. I'm trying. Like it's already July. I'm kind of already behind. That's not gonna make it happen, but
Fuck, man. We gotta
we'll see.
figure something out, man.
Yeah.
But anyway, so to let this go because I'm getting the old Zoom countdown here, and I don't want to
Mm,
end off cut in the middle of a conversation.
that's right. That's right.
So thank you, man. We gotta do this again. I know you're busy.
Yeah, no, so yeah, we finally connected, and I've just got a couple of things. A lot of stuff's changing over here. Like we were dealing with possibly, moving my mom or doing the stuff, and
right,
then
right, right,
sick, and people are traveling, and then I'm getting ready to go on the road for about 3 months straight, and
right.
so it's a good time to knock some of this out. But
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's
we'll
great.
connect, and we'll do it some more, and
And there it went.